At 90 years old, I've seen a lot: wars, heartbreak, joy, and loss. I've held newborns in my arms and buried people I loved. Death, in many ways, does not scare me. It is natural, inevitable, and even at times, a relief. But there are things in this life that weigh heavier on the soul than the thought of dying. Loneliness, helplessness, the fading of one's mind. These are shadows darker than death itself. When you are young, you fear death because you cannot imagine the end of everything you know. But when you grow old, you begin to see that life itself, if stripped of meaning, dignity, and connection, can become something far more terrifying. I do not fear death. I fear being forgotten, being a burden, or losing the ability to be myself. Let me share with you 8 things that, to someone my age, are far more frightening than death. 1. Being completely forgotten. There was a time when my presence mattered, when my voice was heard, my hands were needed, and my thoughts were valued. Now, as the years stretch behind me, I sometimes wonder, will anyone remember me when I am gone? The world moves forward so quickly, leaving behind those who can no longer keep up. Friends pass away, family members grow distant, and the stories we carry inside us begin to fade, unnoticed and unshared. I see it happening all around me. Elders whose names are whispered only in passing, their memories lost because no one takes the time to listen. The thought that one day, everything I have lived through, all the wisdom I have gained, might vanish as if I had never existed, that is a terrifying thought. There is no pain quite like being forgotten while still alive. When people talk over me as if I am not when my presence is overlooked, when my birthday is missed or my opinions are dismissed, I feel as though I am already disappearing. It is a slow erasure, a fading from the world before my body has even left it. I do not need constant attention or grand gestures, but I do wish to be remembered, to know that my life meant something to someone. A visit, a phone call, a conversation where someone truly listens. These are small things, but they keep me tethered to the world. They remind me that I still exist, that my past was real, that my story has a place in the hearts of those who come after me. 2. Losing my mind. I can handle my body growing weak. I can accept the aches in my bones, the slowness in my step, the trembling in my hands. But the thought of losing my mind, that terrifies me beyond words. I have spent a lifetime collecting memories, the laughter of my children, the warmth of my mother's embrace, the feeling of my first love's hand in mine. These are treasures more valuable than gold. And yet, I have seen too many people my age lose those treasures piece by piece, their own past slipping through their fingers like sand. Dementia, Alzheimer's. These words carry a weight heavier than death. To wake up one day and not recognize the face of my own daughter, to forget the name of the man I once vowed to love forever, to look in the mirror and not know the person staring back at me. That is a horror I would not wish on anyone. I have watched friends disappear into the fog of their own minds, their personalities fading, their independence stripped away. They become prisoners in their own bodies, trapped in confusion, fear, and moments of heartbreaking clarity when they realize what is happening to them. I do not want that. I do not want to be a stranger to myself. I try to keep my mind sharp, reading, doing puzzles, reminiscing about the past. I hold on to my memories tightly, as if sheer willpower can keep them from slipping away. But I know that if my mind goes, I will lose the very essence of who I am. And what is life without that? 3. Being a burden. There is no greater pain than feeling like you are a weight on the shoulders of the people you love. Once, I was the one who cared for others. I raised children, cooked meals, worked hard, and did my best to ease the struggles of those around me. I was needed. I was capable. But now, I see the shifts in their eyes when they have to help me. I hear the exhaustion in their voices when they rearrange their schedules for my doctor's appointments. I notice the hesitation when I ask for something, as if they are silently calculating how much effort it will take. I do not want to be pitied. I do not want my presence to be met with sighs of obligation. Yet the older I get, the more I need help. Simple things I once did without a thought. Getting dressed, carrying groceries, even standing up from a chair have become challenges. And with every request for assistance, a part of my dignity slips away. I fear the day when my family no longer sees me as a person, but as a responsibility. When they visit not out of love, but out of duty. When I become someone they whisper about in the other room, debating what to do with me. I never want to hear the words, "She's too much to handle," spoken about me. I never want to feel like an inconvenience, like an item on a long list of obligations. I try to remain independent, to do what I can on my own, but I know that eventually I may need full-time care. And the thought of being entirely dependent on others, of losing my ability to care for myself, is a nightmare, far worse than death. 4. Watching everyone I love die. People often say that growing old is a gift, but what they do not tell you is that it is a gift wrapped in grief. The longer you live, the more goodbyes you must say. I have buried my parents, my siblings, my husband, my dearest friends. Some were taken suddenly, others slowly, painfully. Each loss has carved away a piece of me, leaving behind scars that never truly heal. There is a particular loneliness in outliving the people who made your life worth living. When I was young, I was surrounded by laughter, by familiar voices that made the world feel warm and safe. Now, silence has become my companion. I reach for the phone, only to remember that the person I want to call is gone. I see an old photograph and instinctively think, I must tell them about this, before the cold reality settles in. I will never tell them anything again. There is a strange kind of survivor's guilt that comes with old age. Why am I still here when so many wonderful, vibrant souls are not? I think of my best friend, who died too young, and wonder what she would have done with the years I have lived. I think of my husband, who would have given anything for more time. And yet I am the one left behind, waking up to an empty bed each morning. People assume that grief fades with time, but it does not. It changes shape, becomes quieter, but it never truly leaves. The world expects me to move on, to adjust, to keep living. And I do. But there are days when the weight of loss is suffocating, when the memories are too sharp, when the faces of the dead feel closer than the living. Death does not scare me. I have seen too much of it to fear it. But what does terrify me is the thought of sitting here, year after year, watching the last of my loved ones disappear one by one, until I am the only one left. 5. Losing my independence. There was a time when I moved through life effortlessly. I could get up whenever I pleased, cook my own meals, go for walks, visit friends, and make my own choices. I never had to ask for permission or wait for someone to assist me. I was free. But old age has a cruel way of stripping away that freedom, one small piece at a time. At first, it is just little things. Your legs don't move as quickly as they once did, so you take fewer walks. Your eyesight weakens, making reading more difficult. You stop driving because the roads feel too fast, too chaotic. Then, before you know it, the life you once controlled is no longer yours to command. Now, I have to rely on others. I have to wait for someone to take me to the store if I need something. I have to ask for help reaching high shelves, opening jars, or tying my shoes when my fingers refuse to cooperate. I can no longer live alone safely, which means I must depend on someone else's schedule, someone else's patience, someone else's willingness to help. What scares me the most is the idea of being placed in a home where every aspect of my life is dictated by someone else. When I eat, when I bathe, when I sleep, all decided by a routine that is not my own. I have seen it happen to others. People who were once strong and full of life become prisoners in places meant to care for them. They sit in chairs, waiting for their meals, waiting for visitors, waiting for the hours to pass. They are alive, but they are not living. I do not want to be told what I can and cannot do. I do not want to feel like a child again, with no control over my own existence. I know that eventually I may have no choice. My body will fail me, and I will have to surrender to the reality of dependence. But I will fight it for as long as I can, because the thought of losing my independence is far more terrifying than death itself. 6. Living in constant pain. When you are young, pain is temporary. A scraped knee, a sore muscle, a headache, it all passes with time. But when you grow old, pain becomes a constant companion. It lingers in your joints, settles in your bones, and follows you from morning to night. Some days, it is a dull ache, a quiet reminder that your body is no longer what it once was. Other days, it is unbearable, making even the simplest movements feel like a battle. There is no escape from it. Pain dictates what I can and cannot do. It determines how long I can sit, how far I can walk, how well I sleep. It steals away the small joys of life. I used to love gardening, feeling the earth in my hands, watching flowers bloom under my care. But now, my back protests if I bend too long. My fingers ache if I try to grip the tools. I used to enjoy long conversations over coffee, but my hands shake, making it difficult to hold a cup without spilling. Doctors offer medications, but they come with their own price. Some make me dizzy, some make me nauseous, some cloud my mind, making me feel like a stranger in my own body. And so, I am left choosing between pain or the dullness of a medicated existence. What scares me most is knowing that this pain will never truly go away. It will only get worse. There is no cure for aging, no way to turn back the clock. I fear the day when the pain becomes too much, when it overshadows any reason to keep going. I do not want to live trapped in a body that only brings me suffering. That, to me, is far worse than death. 7. Feeling useless. There was a time when I had a purpose. I was a mother, a wife, a worker, a friend. I was needed. My hands cooked meals, mended clothes, wiped tears from my children's faces. My advice was sought, my skills were valued, and my presence had meaning. But now, in the eyes of the world, what am I? Just an old woman, sitting on the sidelines, watching as life moves on without me. One of the cruelest things about aging is the way society slowly pushes you aside. You are no longer seen as productive, no longer viewed as someone who contributes. People speak over you, make decisions for you, and assume you have nothing left to offer. The roles that once defined you are gone, and in their absence, you are left wondering, do I still matter? I try to find new ways to be useful. I share my stories, my wisdom, my experiences, hoping that they will mean something to someone. I offer advice when asked, though I know it is not always welcomed. I help where I can, but my body limits me, and that is the hardest part. I want to be of service, to feel like I am still contributing to the lives of those I love, but the opportunities to do so grow fewer with each passing year. I fear becoming invisible, nothing more than a silent figure in the background. I do not want to be treated as though I am fragile, incapable, or irrelevant. I want to be seen, to be valued, to know that I still have a purpose, even in the final chapters of my life. Because a life without purpose is not truly living, it is merely existing. And that, to me, is far more terrifying than death. 8. Dying alone. I do not fear death itself. I have lived long enough to accept that it is inevitable, a natural part of life. But what I do fear, what haunts me in the quiet hours of the night, is the thought of leaving this world with no one by my side. I have seen it happen. People who spend their final moments in cold, sterile rooms, surrounded not by loved ones, but by beeping machines and strangers in white coats. No familiar hand to hold, no voice whispering words of comfort, no presence to remind them that their life mattered. Just an empty, lonely exit from a world that has already moved on without them. There was a time when death was a family affair. People passed away in their own homes, surrounded by children, grandchildren, and friends. Their last moments were filled with warmth, with prayers, with hands holding theirs until the very end. Now, so many of us die in nursing homes, in hospitals, in places where we are just another patient, another bed to be filled. I do not want that. I do not want to be found days later because no one checked on me. I do not want my last words to be spoken to a nurse who will forget my name by the next shift. I want to go knowing that I was loved, that I was not abandoned, that my presence in this world mattered to someone. I know that death cannot be avoided, but if I must face it, I pray I will not have to do so alone. Because leaving this world in solitude, with no one to grieve, no one to remember, no one to care, that is a fate far worse than death itself. And so, as I sit here, reflecting on all that I have seen, all that I have lost, and all that I still hold dear, I do not ask for much. Not for youth, not for riches, not for more years than I am meant to have. I only ask that, when my time comes, there is a hand to hold and a heart that remembers me. If you found this video meaningful, I would appreciate it if you could like and subscribe. Your support means so much. Take care of yourselves and remember to cherish every moment with those you love. Until next time, goodbye.